My cousin calls my boyfriend our boyfriend. Our boyfriend is so thoughtful, isn't he? Sarah gushed, holding up the expensive watch Jake had just given me for our 6-month anniversary. He has such good taste in gifts for us. I nearly choked on my champagne. We were at my parents' anniversary dinner, surrounded by aunts, uncles, and cousins, and my 24-year-old cousin had just referred to my boyfriend as ours for the third time tonight. Jake shifted uncomfortably beside me, his hand tightening around mine under the table. Sarah, he's not, I started, but she was already showing the watch to my mom. Look how he spoils us, Aunt Linda. Isn't Jake just the best boyfriend? We're so lucky to have him. My mom's eyebrows shot up to her hairline. Us? Honey, I think you mean Emma is lucky to have him. Sarah giggled, that high-pitched sound that used to be endearing when we were kids but now made my skin crawl. Oh, you know what I mean. Jake's practically family now. He's always taking care of both of us. This had been going on for 2 months, ever since Sarah transferred to our college and I made the mistake of introducing her to Jake. What started as innocent comments about how cute we all looked together had escalated into full-blown delusion. She'd somehow convinced herself that she was part of our relationship. Jake leaned over and whispered in my ear, we need to talk to her. This is getting weird. Weird was an understatement. Last week, she'd shown up at our study date at the library with matching coffee cups for her and Jake, claiming she'd gotten them as couples mugs for the 3 of us. When I pointed out that couples mugs come in sets of 2, she laughed and said, not for triples. The worst part was how she'd started inserting herself into our plans. Jake would text me about dinner at Romano's at 7, and somehow Sarah would already be there when we arrived, having coincidentally made a reservation at the same time. She'd wear outfits that coordinated with mine, sit between us whenever possible, and order Jake's favorite dessert to share with him while I sat there feeling like an intruder in my own relationship. Emma, are you okay? My dad asked, probably noticing my death grip on my fork. You look a little pale. I'm fine, I managed, watching Sarah lean across the table to adjust Jake's collar like she was his girlfriend primping him for photos. Just tired from finals. Well, Jake's been such a help with her stress, Sarah announced to the table. He gives the best back rubs, and he's been staying over so much lately to take care of both of us. Haven't you, babe? Jake's face went bright red. What? Sarah, I don't. Oh, don't be modest. She reached over and squeezed his arm. You're always bringing us food and making sure we're okay. You even have a toothbrush at our place now. Our place. She'd been crashing in my dorm room so frequently that she'd somehow started calling it ours. My roommate had moved out mid-semester, and Sarah had basically moved herself in without asking, claiming her own roommate was too messy and that it made sense for her to stay with her favorite couple. I caught Jake's eye across the table. His expression was a mix of horror and helplessness that perfectly matched how I felt. We'd created a monster, and I had no idea how to stop her without causing a family war. But as I watched Sarah feed Jake a bite of her dessert while my entire extended family looked on in confusion, I realized something had to give. Soon. The breaking point came 3 days later when I walked into my dorm room and found Sarah reorganizing my closet. Oh perfect, you're back, she chirped, holding up my favorite red dress, the one Jake had complimented me in on our first date. I was just making room for more of my things. Jake mentioned he loves this dress, so I ordered the same one in blue. We'll look so cute as a matching set when we go out with him. When we go out with him? I dropped my backpack, staring at the suitcases now lined up against what used to be my roommate's empty side of the room. Sarah, what is all this? I made it official with housing. Since your roommate left anyway, I got approved for a room transfer. Isn't that great? Now Jake doesn't have to choose which room to hang out in. She beamed like she'd just solved world hunger. Speaking of which, he's picking us up at 7 for dinner. I already told him you'd be ready. My phone buzzed. A text from Jake, asterisk Emma. I tried to tell her it was just me and you tonight, but she already ordered an Uber for 3 people. I'm sorry, asterisk. Sarah. I took a deep breath, trying to channel every conflict resolution technique I'd learned in my psychology classes. We need to have a serious conversation about boundaries. She tilted her head, genuinely confused. What do you mean? I mean Jake is my boyfriend. Mine. Not ours. We're not in a throuple or whatever you've been telling people. You can't just insert yourself into our relationship like this. For a moment, something flickered across her face, hurt, maybe even embarrassment. But then she laughed, waving her hand dismissively. Emma, don't be silly. Jake loves having me around. Just last night when he brought us those Thai food containers from Chang's garden, he said I was really sweet for remembering his order. And when I fell asleep on his shoulder during the movie, he didn't move for like an hour. Because he was being polite. The words came out sharper than I intended. Sarah, that doesn't mean. Plus, I already posted about our dinner tonight on Instagram. She showed me her phone screen. The caption read, date night with my 2 favorite people. 2 hearts #blessed #triple #love above a selfie of her and Jake from last week, one I hadn't even known she'd taken. I got 43 likes already. My stomach dropped. You posted what? Don't worry, I tagged you too. Well, I tried to, but you never accept my couple photo tags. Why is that? She looked genuinely hurt. I always make sure to get good angles of all 3 of us. I grabbed her phone, scrolling through her recent posts with growing horror. There were dozens of photos of her with Jake, at the coffee shop where he worked, captioned, supporting our boyfriend at work, outside his economics class, picking up our man after a hard day, even one of them at the campus bookstore, helping our boyfriend pick out textbooks for next semester. Sarah, people are going to think. Think what? That we're happy? She snatched her phone back. Emma, I know this is unconventional, but some of the most beautiful relationships are. Jake makes both of us happy, and we both make him happy. Why can't you just embrace it? I stared at her, realizing with crystal clarity that this wasn't just boundary pushing or attention-seeking behavior. Sarah genuinely believed we were in a relationship together. All of us. And judging by the comments on her Instagram posts, half our college campus was starting to believe it too. The comments on Sarah's Instagram posts made my blood run cold. Asterisk you 3 are so cute together. Relationship goals. Asterisk. Asterisk wait, Emma and Sarah are both dating Jake? Lucky guy, lol asterisk. Asterisk, is this like sister wives but for college kids? Asterisk. Asterisk poly representation. Love seeing healthy triples. Asterisk. But the worst one was from my high school friend Madison. Asterisk Emma, girl, call me ASAP. Is this for real? Asterisk. My phone started buzzing immediately. Madison, then my roommate from freshman year, then 2 girls from my sorority. Word was spreading fast. Sarah, you have to delete these posts right now. My hands were shaking as I handed her phone back. People think we're actually. Actually what? Actually happy? She was already touching up her lip gloss in my mirror when had she put up a second mirror, getting ready for our date with Jake. Emma, I know change is hard, but you'll adjust. Jake and I have been talking, and we both think you've seemed happier these past few weeks with less pressure on the relationship. You and Jake have been talking? About me? Well, yeah. Partners need to communicate. She said it so matter-of-factly, like it was the most natural thing in the world. Just yesterday when you were in class, he mentioned how stressed you've been about finals. I told him I'd take care of planning something relaxing for all of us this weekend. Maybe that couple spa day I've been wanting to try? My vision blurred with rage. You planned a couple spa day? Triple spa day, technically. I already called Serenity Springs and asked about their relationship packages. The woman was super understanding once I explained our situation. She turned from the mirror, checking her outfit, my cardigan over her dress, I realized with fresh horror. They have a special suite where Jake can get his massage between our rooms. Isn't that perfect? The door opened and Jake walked in, looking like he was heading to his own execution. Hey sorry he stopped short, taking in Sarah's moving boxes, her clothes mixed with mine in the closet, and the territorial way she was standing in what used to be my private space. Surprise. Sarah threw her arms around him before he could react. I'm officially Emma's roommate now. No more sneaking around between 2 different dorms. Now you can just come straight here to see both your girls. Jake's eyes met mine over Sarah's head. The panic there was unmistakable. Sarah, can I talk to Emma alone for a minute? Why? She didn't let go of him. We don't keep secrets from each other. That's not how healthy relationships work. Because I need to discuss something private with my girlfriend. Jake's voice had an edge I'd never heard before. Emma. My girlfriend. Singular. Sarah's smile flickered but didn't fade. Jake, we've talked about this. The jealousy phase is totally normal when transitioning to a polyamorous dynamic. My research says it usually takes 3 to 6 months for everyone to adjust. Your research? I couldn't help myself. What research? She pulled out her phone eagerly, like she'd been waiting for this question. I've been reading everything. More than 2, The Ethical Slut, Polyamory for Dummies. I even joined 3 different Facebook groups for relationship advice. She scrolled through screenshots she'd saved. Look, this one says existing partners often resist adding new people due to societal conditioning about monogamy. That's totally what's happening here. Jake stepped away from her, reaching for my hand. Sarah, I think there's been a huge misunderstanding. Emma and I are not polyamorous. We're not looking for a third person. We're a couple. Just the 2 of us. But Jake. Sarah's voice got small, confused. What about all our moments? The coffee dates, the study sessions, movie nights? You bought me that book I mentioned, Pride and Prejudice, and left that sweet note inside about hoping I'd like it. That was for your birthday. Because Emma said you loved Jane Austen. And you drove me to my doctor's appointment last week when I was scared to go alone. Because you asked Emma to come with you, and she had a midterm. For each of Jake's explanations, Sarah had a counter-memory, a different interpretation where his kindness meant romance, where his politeness meant love. Watching her face, I realized we weren't dealing with someone who was pretending or attention-seeking. Sarah genuinely believed Jake was falling in love with her. And tomorrow, she'd apparently booked us all a couple's massage to celebrate it. The couple's spa appointment was the last straw, but what happened the next morning made me realize just how deep Sarah's delusion ran. I woke up to find her sitting on Jake's lap at my tiny dorm room desk, feeding him pieces of cut-up strawberries while he tried to work on his laptop. Morning, babe. Sarah called out cheerfully, not moving from Jake's lap. I got us breakfast from that place you like. Jake's been telling me about his economics paper, and I've been helping him brainstorm. Jake looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. Emma, I tried to work in the library, but Sarah said you wanted me to come here. I never said that. I grabbed my robe, suddenly very aware that I was in pajamas while Sarah was fully dressed and draped all over my boyfriend at 8 a.m. Sarah, what are you doing? Making sure our boyfriend eats a proper breakfast. He's been so stressed about Professor Martinez's assignment. She held up another strawberry to Jake's mouth, but he turned his head away. Jake, don't be shy. Emma doesn't mind sharing, do you, Em? Before I could answer, my phone rang. My mom's contact photo filled the screen. I should take this, I muttered, stepping into the hallway. Emma, honey, I need to ask you something. Mom's voice was careful, diplomatic. Your Aunt Carol called me last night. She's concerned about some photos Sarah posted online. My stomach plummeted. What photos? Something about you and Sarah both dating Jake? Carol showed me her Facebook, and there are quite a few pictures. Emma, what's going on? Are you experimenting with one of those alternative relationship things? Through the door, I could hear Sarah giggling and Jake's uncomfortable I really need to finish this paper protests. Mom, no. God, no. Sarah's just been confused lately. Confused how? Because she posted a very detailed status update about planning a romantic weekend getaway for the 3 of you. She thanked Jake for being patient with Emma's adjustment period and said something about celebrating your 6-month triple anniversary. Or what? I nearly shouted, then lowered my voice as other students passed by. Mom, Jake and I have been together 6 months. Sarah has nothing to do with our anniversary. So you're not sharing him? No. The word echoed down the hallway. I would never, Mom. Sarah's been inserting herself into our relationship, and I don't know how to stop her without causing family drama. There was a pause. Emma, your cousin is telling people she's engaged. Engaged? To who? To Jake. She posted it an hour ago with a photo of her wearing some ring, saying he finally made it official with both his girls. The post has 67 comments already. Your grandmother shared it. I slumped against the wall. She's not engaged to Jake. Jake doesn't even want to be in the same room with her. Then whose ring is she wearing? I had no idea, but I was about to find out. I hung up and stormed back into my room, where Sarah was now showing Jake something on her phone while sitting sideways across his lap like they were an established couple. Sarah, we need to talk. Now. I held up my phone. My mom just called about your Facebook post. Sarah's face lit up. Oh good. I was wondering when the family would see the engagement announcement. I wanted to tell everyone in person, but social media is so much faster. She held out her left hand, showing off a simple silver band with a small diamond. What do you think? Jake has such good taste. Jake shot up so fast that Sarah nearly fell off his lap. What engagement? Sarah, where did you get that ring? From your backpack yesterday when you were in the shower, she said matter-of-factly. I found it in that little jewelry box. I know you were probably waiting for the perfect moment to propose to both of us, but I was so excited I couldn't wait to share the news. The color drained from Jake's face. Sarah, that's my grandmother's ring. I was planning to, he stopped mid-sentence, looking at me with absolute horror. And that's when I realized Sarah hadn't just stolen a random piece of jewelry. She'd stolen the ring Jake had been planning to propose to me with. The room fell into dead silence. Jake stared at Sarah's hand like she was wearing a bomb instead of a ring. Sarah beamed at both of us, completely oblivious to the devastation she just caused. I know, I probably ruined the surprise, she said, admiring the ring in the morning light streaming through my window. But Jake, when I found it in your backpack yesterday, I just knew it had to be for us. The timing is so perfect with our spa weekend coming up. You went through my backpack? Jake's voice was barely above a whisper. Well, I was looking for your phone charger, and I saw the little velvet box. I couldn't help myself. Sarah giggled, that same high-pitched sound that now made me want to scream. I've been dropping hints about ring shopping for weeks. Remember when we walked past Tiffany's last Tuesday and I mentioned how beautiful their engagement displays were? Jake ran his hands through his hair, looking like he might throw up. Sarah, we weren't ring shopping. You asked me to walk you to your dentist appointment, and you stopped to look at the window display. I kept walking. But you came back for me, Sarah said softly, and for the first time I heard something vulnerable in her voice. You waited while I looked at all the different settings. And you asked me which style I liked best. I asked you to hurry up because I had class in 20 minutes. The engagement ring, Jake's grandmother's engagement ring, the one he'd probably been planning to give me, caught the light as Sarah gestured dramatically. Jake, I understand you're nervous. Proposing is a big step, especially in a non-traditional relationship. But we've been building toward this for months. I found my voice finally. Sarah, take off the ring. Right now. What? Why? She clutched her hand to her chest protectively. Emma, I know you're probably feeling left out because Jake proposed to me first, but I'm sure he has something special planned for you too. Right, Jake? Jake looked at me with such profound apology in his eyes that I almost started crying right there. Emma, I can explain. Explain what? That you bought a ring without telling me? Sarah interrupted, bouncing slightly with excitement. It's okay, I think surprises are romantic. Although I did spoil this one by posting about it on Facebook before checking with you both. My phone started buzzing again. Text messages from friends, sorority sisters, people I barely knew asking if the engagement post was real. My Instagram notifications were going crazy with tags and comments. Sarah, how many people did you tell? I asked, though I was afraid of the answer. Tell about what? The engagement. Oh, well, I posted it on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat. And I called Grandma Rose directly because I know she doesn't really use social media. She cried happy tears. She's already talking about helping plan the wedding. Sarah paused thoughtfully. Although she did seem confused about the logistics. She kept asking which one of us would be the actual bride. Jake sank onto my bed like his legs had given out. My grandmother. Sarah, you called my grandmother? Your grandmother? I called our grandmother. Grandma Rose from your mom's side, right? The one who makes those amazing Christmas cookies? Sarah looked between us, her smile faltering slightly. She's going to be my grandmother-in-law too now. I thought she'd want to hear the good news from me directly. Rose is Jake's grandmother, I said slowly. She's not your grandmother, Sarah. She's going to be confused about why some random girl called her claiming to be engaged to her grandson. Random girl? For the first time, Sarah's voice cracked. Emma, that's not very nice. I'm not random. I'm your cousin, and I'm Jake's fiancé now. We're family. My phone rang again. This time it was a number I didn't recognize with Jake's area code. That's probably her, Jake said miserably. Grandma Rose always calls when she's confused about something. I answered the phone, putting it on speaker. An elderly woman's voice filled the room, sharp with concern and confusion. Jacob? Is this Jacob's girlfriend Emma? This is Grandma Rose. I just got the strangest phone call from a young woman claiming to be engaged to you. She knew an awful lot about our family, but I've never heard you mention anyone named Sarah. She said you gave her my mother's ring? Jacob, please tell me you didn't lose your great-grandmother's ring. Sarah's face went white as Jake covered his face with his hands. The ring she was wearing wasn't just any engagement ring. It was a 100-year-old family heirloom. And now she'd announced to the entire internet that she was engaged to someone else's boyfriend with someone else's great-grandmother's ring. The next hour was a nightmare of damage control. Jake spent 20 minutes on the phone with his grandmother, trying to explain that no, he wasn't secretly engaged, and yes, he still had the ring, while Sarah sat on my bed looking increasingly confused and hurt. Meanwhile, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing with congratulations messages that made me want to throw it out the window. But I don't understand, Sarah kept saying, turning the ring around her finger. If Jake wasn't proposing to me, why did he have an engagement ring in his backpack? Jake shot me a look that clearly said, "Help me out here," but I was too stunned to form words. The ring I'd been dreaming about, the one I'd caught him researching online late at night, was on another woman's finger while she announced their fake engagement to anyone who would listen. "Sarah," Jake said finally, hanging up with his grandmother, "I was planning to propose to Emma. Just Emma. On our actual 6-month anniversary next week." The words should have filled me with joy, but instead I felt sick. The surprise was ruined, the ring was contaminated with Sarah's delusion, and half our social circle thought I was in some weird polygamous situation. Sarah blinked at Jake like he'd spoken a foreign language. "But what about me? What about you? Where do I fit in your proposal plans?" Her voice got smaller. "I mean, I know I spoiled the surprise by finding the ring early, but you can still propose to both of us properly. Maybe at the spa tomorrow? They have that beautiful garden area that would be perfect for photos." I watched Jake's face cycle through disbelief, frustration, and something that looked almost like pity. "Sarah, there is no both of us. There's Emma. Just Emma. I'm not proposing to you because we're not dating. But we." Sarah's voice trailed off. She looked around my room, at her clothes mixed with mine in the closet, at the second toothbrush she'd left by my sink, at the photos she'd printed and hung up showing her and Jake at various locations around campus. "We spend so much time together. You're always so sweet to me. Last week you said I looked nice in my blue dress. I was being polite. And you remembered my coffee order at Starbucks. Because you order the same complicated drink every single time and the barista always looks confused. You drove me to Target when I needed dorm supplies. Because Emma asked me to help her cousin." With each of Jake's explanations, I watched Sarah's carefully constructed fantasy crumble a little more. But instead of accepting reality, she seemed to be doubling down. "This is just cold feet," she said, standing up and smoothing her dress, "my cardigan, I noticed again. Jake, I understand this is overwhelming. Going from a traditional couple to a throuple is a big adjustment. But we've been building this relationship for 2 months now. You can't just pretend it didn't happen." My phone buzzed with a text from my sorority president, "Emergency chapter meeting tonight. We need to discuss your social media situation." Another text, this one from my academic advisor, "Emma, please see me Monday morning. There are some concerns about your personal life affecting your campus reputation." And then the worst one, from my dad, "Your mother is very upset. Family dinner Sunday. You, Jake, and Sarah all need to be there to explain this situation." Sarah had managed to drag my entire family, my sorority, my academic standing, and Jake's grandmother into her delusion. And she was still wearing the ring, admiring it in the light like she was planning wedding colors. "Sarah," I said, my voice deadly calm, "take off the ring and give it back to Jake. Now." She clutched her hand protectively against her chest. "Emma, I know you're hurt that Jake proposed to me first, but he didn't propose to you. Then why do I have his ring?" The circular logic was making my head spin, but I finally understood what I was dealing with. Sarah hadn't just crossed boundaries or misread signals. She'd created an entire alternate reality where she was Jake's girlfriend, and no amount of explaining was going to convince her otherwise. But I was about to try a different approach entirely. The breaking point came when I found Sarah in my bed at 11 p.m., wearing my silk pajamas and reading what looked like a wedding planning magazine. "Oh good, you're back," she said brightly, not moving from the center of my bed. "I've been looking at venues for our engagement party. Jake left his laptop here, so I've been browsing his browsing history for ideas. Did you know he looked at the botanical gardens last month? He's obviously been planning something romantic for all of us." I stared at her, my overnight bag from Jake's apartment still in my hand. I'd gone there to escape the chaos of my own dorm room, only to come back and find Sarah had made herself even more at home. "Sarah, get out of my bed." "Our bed," she corrected, flipping a page in the magazine. "I mean, if we're going to be sister wives, we need to start thinking about shared spaces more intentionally. I already moved some of your stuff to make room for my night routine." Sure enough, my bedside table had been completely reorganized. My lamp was gone, replaced by some kind of essential oil diffuser that was making the whole room smell like lavender. My books were stacked on the floor, and in their place were Sarah's journal, her phone charger, and a framed photo I'd never seen before, her and Jake at the campus coffee shop, cropped to look like a couple selfie. "Where did you get that photo?" "I took it last Tuesday when Jake was explaining his economics homework to me. Doesn't he look handsome when he's concentrating?" She held up the frame lovingly. "I'm thinking we could use it for our engagement announcement in the school newspaper. You know, a more formal announcement than social media." My blood pressure spiked. "You want to put an engagement announcement in the daily campus?" "Well, yeah. It's tradition. My mom still has her engagement announcement from when she married Dad. I already drafted something." Sarah reached for her phone, scrolling to what looked like a notes app. "Listen to this, Sarah Michelle Chen and Jacob David Martinez announce their engagement, with the blessing of Jacob's girlfriend, Emma Catherine Torres. The couple plans a spring wedding, incorporating both traditional and modern relationship values." I sank into my desk chair, feeling like I was trapped in some kind of fever dream. "Sarah, you cannot submit that." "Why not?" "I researched the format and everything. Although I wasn't sure how to word the part about you. What's the proper etiquette for announcing a polyamorous engagement?" I posted in 3 different Facebook groups asking for advice. My phone immediately started buzzing with notifications. My Instagram, my Facebook, even my LinkedIn were getting tagged in posts and comments. Sarah had apparently been very thorough in her research requests. "Let me see those Facebook posts," I demanded. Sarah handed over her phone eagerly. "The polyamory community is so supportive. Look at all the advice I'm getting." I scrolled through post after post in groups like Ethical Non-Monogamy Support and Polyamorous Life, where Sarah had shared photos of her, Jake, and me, asking for advice on engagement announcement etiquette when your boyfriend's primary partner is still adjusting to the dynamic. The comments ranged from congratulatory to concerned, but they all treated Sarah's situation as completely real. People were giving genuine advice about managing jealousy in poly relationships, recommending books about ethical non-monogamy, and sharing their own engagement stories. One comment made my stomach drop. "Hun, if the primary partner is this resistant after 6 months, you might need to consider that this isn't actually a consensual poly situation. Have you had explicit conversations about boundaries with both partners?" Another red flag. Healthy poly relationships require enthusiastic consent from everyone involved. If Emma isn't on board, this sounds more like an affair than polyamory. Sarah had responded to that one. Emma's just taking longer to adjust than Jake and I expected. But we're working through it together. Communication is key. 2 hearts. Seeing our private relationship drama discussed by strangers online, with Sarah positioning herself as a victim of my jealousy, made something inside me snap. I was done trying to reason with her. It was time for Sarah to get a taste of her own medicine. That night, after Sarah finally fell asleep in my bed, forcing me to sleep on the floor like a guest in my own room, I made a decision. If Sarah wanted to live in a fantasy world where she could create fake relationships and broadcast them to the internet, then I was going to give her exactly what she asked for. I spent 3 hours on Jake's laptop in the common room, creating the most elaborate fake social media presence I'd ever attempted. Meet David Chin, Sarah's age, devastatingly handsome, thanks to stock photos of a male model, and completely fictional. I gave him a job at a marketing firm in the city, a love of hiking and craft beer, and most importantly, a deep, passionate love for Sarah Michelle Chin. By 4 a.m., David had a complete Facebook profile going back 2 years, an Instagram full of scenic hiking photos and artfully arranged coffee cups, and a Twitter account with appropriately boring updates about work projects and weekend plans. I even created a fake LinkedIn profile and added connections to make him look legitimate. The best part? I backdated everything. According to David's social media history, he'd been quietly obsessing over Sarah for months. There were check-ins at restaurants near our campus from weeks ago, cryptic posts about finally working up the courage to tell her how I feel, and even a few photos taken around our college town that I'd carefully crafted using Google Street View and photo editing apps. Jake found me in the common room at 6 a.m., surrounded by energy drink cans and looking like I'd been possessed by the spirit of revenge. Emma? What are you doing? He rubbed his eyes, wearing the same clothes from yesterday. I tried calling you last night. I'm solving our Sarah problem, I said, showing him David's Instagram profile. Meet Sarah's new boyfriend. Jake squinted at the screen, then at me. Emma, what did you do? I created the perfect man for Sarah. David Chin, notice I used her last name, like fate brought them together. He's successful, gorgeous, and absolutely head over heels for her. Look. I clicked through David's posts, showing Jake the carefully constructed timeline. He's been liking her photos for months, commenting sweet things, even sharing her posts about us with captions like, she deserves so much happiness. This is. Jake scrolled through David's profile, his expression shifting between amazement and horror. Emma, this is insane. You created an entire fake person. Sarah created an entire fake relationship. At least my fake person isn't stealing jewelry and calling people's grandmothers. I pulled up the piece de resistance, David's most recent post, time to go live in 2 hours. This morning, David is going to post a heartfelt confession about how he's been in love with Sarah from afar, and he can't stay silent anymore. He's going to ask her to give him a chance to show her what real love looks like. Jake stared at the drafted post. You wrote him a love letter. To Sarah. Pretending to be someone else. I wrote him the most romantic, over-the-top, sweep-you-off-your-feet love confession that Sarah's romance-obsessed brain could ever dream of, I corrected. Complete with references to specific things she's posted about, her favorite flowers, that book she mentioned loving, even that coffee shop she always checks in at. And then what? She's going to want to meet this David person. I smiled, probably looking slightly unhinged after my all-nighter of revenge plotting. That's where it gets interesting. David is going to be very mysteriously busy. Always just missing her by minutes, leaving surprise gifts with mutual friends, planning elaborate dates that get cancelled at the last minute due to work emergencies. Jake was quiet for a long moment, processing the full scope of what I'd created. Emma, this is going to blow up spectacularly. Good, I said, closing the laptop. Let Sarah experience what it feels like when someone creates a fantasy relationship and drags you into it whether you want to be there or not. The plan went live at 8 a.m. sharp, just as Sarah was doing her elaborate morning routine in my bathroom, another territorial claim that made my eye twitch. I pretended to be asleep on the floor when I heard her phone buzz with a Facebook notification. Oh my god, she whispered, then louder, oh my god. I cracked one eye open to see her sitting bolt upright in my bed, staring at her phone with the same expression she'd had when she found Jake's grandmother's ring. Pure, unbridled excitement mixed with disbelief. Emma, wake up. You're never going to believe what just happened. I sat up, rubbing my eyes and trying to look confused instead of triumphant. What's wrong? Is everything okay? Everything's perfect. Sarah scrambled out of bed, practically vibrating with energy. David Chin, you know, that really cute guy who's been liking my photos for months. He just posted the most incredible confession on Facebook. She thrust her phone in my face. Look. Read this. I pretended to scan David's carefully crafted love letter, watching Sarah's face glow with happiness as she read along over my shoulder. The post had already gotten 15 likes and 3 heart eye emoji comments from the fake accounts I created to make David seem popular and well-connected. Wow, I said, injecting just enough surprise into my voice. That's really romantic. Who is this guy again? David. He works at Morrison Marketing downtown. That's like a 40-minute drive, which explains why I never see him around campus. But Emma, look at what he wrote. Sarah snatched her phone back, reading aloud. Sarah, I've been following your posts for months, amazed by your kindness, your intelligence, and the way you light up every room you're in. I know you're in a complicated relationship situation right now, but I can't stay silent anymore. You deserve someone who sees you as their entire world, not someone who makes you fight for attention. My fictional David had a point, I had to admit. He's talking about Jake. Sarah continued, scrolling through the post. Look, he says, I've watched you pour your heart into someone who can't appreciate the incredible woman you are. You deserve flowers just because it's Tuesday, surprise picnics in the park, someone who calls you beautiful every single day. Emma, he's been paying attention to everything I posted about wanting more romance in my life. Because I've been watching her posts for months too, cataloging every complaint she'd made about Jake not being romantic enough, every hint she dropped about her ideal relationship. David's love confession was basically Sarah's wish list in letter form. So what are you going to do? I asked, watching her pace around my small dorm room in her excitement. I have to respond. But what do I say? Thank you for the lovely post, but I'm engaged. Except. She paused, looking at Jake's grandmother's ring on her finger. Things with Jake have been complicated lately. And David seems so genuine, so focused on just me, you know? There it was, the first crack in her delusion about Jake. I pressed gently. What do you mean, complicated? Well, Jake's been weird about the engagement announcement. And sometimes I feel like he's more excited to see you than me when he comes over. Sarah sat down heavily in my desk chair. Yesterday when I showed him my ideas for our engagement party, he just looked sad. Like maybe he's having second thoughts about proposing to both of us. Maybe because he didn't propose to you at all, I thought, but out loud I said, that must be confusing. Sarah's phone buzzed again. Another notification from David, this time a comment on one of her old photos, something I'd scheduled to post automatically 10 minutes after his confession. Beautiful smile. Hope you have an amazing day, smiling face with smiling eyes. He's commenting on my pictures. Sarah squealed, then immediately started typing a response. I watched her craft and delete several replies, settling on thank you so much for your sweet post earlier. I'd love to talk more if you're free sometime. The response came within 30 seconds, thanks to the auto-reply system I'd set up, I'd love nothing more. Are you free for coffee tomorrow afternoon? I know the perfect place. Sarah actually bounced in her chair. He wants to meet me. Tomorrow. Emma, what should I wear? What if he's even cuter in person? What if this is fate trying to tell me something about my relationship with Jake? I watched my cousin, the same person who'd spent 2 months inserting herself into my relationship and stealing my boyfriend's proposal ring, fall head over heels for a completely fictional person I'd invented in one sleepless night. And I felt absolutely no guilt about it whatsoever. The coffee date was supposed to be my moment of triumph, watching Sarah sit alone at Café Luna, waiting for a man who would never show up. I'd planned it perfectly. David would text her 30 minutes after their scheduled meeting time with an emergency at work, leaving Sarah confused and disappointed. But when I walked past the cafe windows at 3:47 p.m., expecting to see her checking her phone anxiously, I found something much worse. Sarah wasn't alone. She was sitting across from a very real, very handsome guy who looked exactly like the stock photos I'd used for David's profile. They were leaning in close, laughing, and he was holding her hand across the small table. My blood turned to ice. There was no way this was possible. David Chin didn't exist. I'd made him up, complete with fake social media accounts and a non-existent job. Yet there he was, in the flesh, apparently having a wonderful time with my cousin. I ducked behind a parked car and called Jake immediately. Emma? Aren't you supposed to be in biolab right now? Jake, something's wrong. Really wrong. I peered around the car again, watching Sarah giggle at something fake David was saying. Remember that fictional boyfriend I created for Sarah? He's real. What do you mean, real? I mean there's an actual human man sitting in Café Luna right now, holding Sarah's hand, and he looks exactly like the photos I used for David's profile. My voice was getting higher with panic. This is impossible. I used stock photos. I made up his entire identity. Jake was quiet for a moment. Emma, are you sure it's the same guy? Same face, same hair, same everything. He's even wearing a blue button-down shirt like I said David would wear in his last message to her. I watched Sarah show him something on her phone, both of them laughing. Jake, what if I accidentally catfished someone into existence? What if there really is a David Chin who works in marketing and I somehow found his actual photos? That's not how catfishing works. Then explain to me why Sarah is on a date with my fictional character. Through the cafe window, I watched David, or whoever this person was, pull out a small wrapped gift and hand it to Sarah. She opened it with obvious delight, holding up what looked like a delicate silver bracelet. The same bracelet that fictional David had promised to give her in one of my fake messages. This was beyond coincidence. This was entering Twilight Zone territory. I'm coming over there, Jake said. Don't do anything crazy until I arrive. But I was already walking toward the cafe entrance, my curiosity overriding my common sense. I needed to know who this person was and how he'd stepped out of my revenge fantasy into real life. The bell chimed as I pushed open the door, and both Sarah and her mysterious date looked up. Sarah's face immediately shifted from joy to confusion. Emma? What are you doing here? I stared at the man across from her, taking in every detail. He was definitely the person from the stock photos I'd used, but something was off. His smile seemed nervous, almost guilty, and when our eyes met, I saw a flicker of recognition that made no sense. I was just grabbing coffee, I lied, then looked directly at her date. I don't think we've met. I'm Emma, Sarah's cousin. David, he said, extending his hand with what seemed like forced confidence. David Chin. Sarah's told me so much about you. His handshake was firm, his palm slightly sweaty. Real. Definitely real. But as he smiled at me, I caught something that made my stomach drop. The way he said David Chin had the slight hesitation of someone using a name that wasn't quite natural to them. This man wasn't David Chin any more than I was. The question was, who was he really, and how had he hijacked my fake boyfriend scheme? I excused myself to the bathroom, my mind racing as I tried to process what was happening. In the narrow hallway behind the cafe counter, I pulled out my phone and did something I should have done hours ago. I reverse searched the stock photos I'd used for David's profile. The results made my hands shake. The photos weren't from a stock photography site. They were from a real person's social media accounts that had been deleted or made private since I'd grabbed the images 3 days ago. But Google's cached results showed me enough to piece together the truth. The real person in those photos was named Marcus Webb, a 26-year-old marketing coordinator from Portland. And according to a cached LinkedIn profile, he'd recently moved to our area for a new job. Which meant I hadn't created a fictional person at all. I'd accidentally stolen a real person's identity and used it to catfish my cousin. And somehow, impossibly, the real Marcus had figured out what I'd done and decided to play along. But why? I splashed cold water on my face in the bathroom mirror, trying to think. There was no way this was coincidence. Marcus, or David, had somehow discovered my fake profiles, connected them to Sarah, and shown up to their coffee date pretending to be the fictional boyfriend I'd created. The question was whether he was trying to help Sarah or hurt her. And what he wanted from me in return. When I emerged from the bathroom, I found Marcus standing near the coffee counter, apparently having excused himself from their table as well. Sarah was still sitting alone, admiring her new bracelet and typing what looked like excited messages on her phone. "We need to talk," I said quietly, stepping next to him at the counter. "I figured you'd want to," he replied, his voice different now, less performative, more genuine. "Emma, right? Sarah's mentioned you a lot in her posts. You know who I am. I know you created an entire fake identity using my photos, yeah." Marcus ordered a black coffee, completely calm despite the insanity of the situation. "I've been getting Google alerts about my name and pictures showing up on social media accounts I didn't create. Took me a while to trace it back to you." My stomach sank. "Are you going to press charges? Sue me? I didn't know those were real photos, I swear." "Relax. I'm not here to cause trouble." He glanced back at Sarah, who was now taking selfies with her bracelet. "I'm here because your cousin has been posting in every polyamory support group on Facebook, sharing photos of me and asking for relationship advice about her complicated triple situation." Oh God. I'd forgotten about Sarah's research posts in those Facebook groups. She used your photos? My photos, my fake name, and a completely fictional story about how I'm engaged to some guy named Jake while dating her on the side. Marcus's expression was somewhere between amused and concerned. "Do you have any idea how confusing it is to wake up and find out you're supposedly in a polyamorous relationship with strangers?" I stared at him, pieces of a horrible puzzle clicking into place. "So you came here to confront Sarah about the fake posts?" "I came here to figure out what the hell was going on," he corrected. "But then I saw her sitting there, looking so excited and hopeful, and..." He shrugged. "She seems really sweet, Emma. Delusional, but sweet. I didn't have the heart to destroy her fantasy immediately." "So you're going to string her along instead?" Marcus's expression grew serious. "I'm going to give you a chance to fix this mess before I do it for you. Sarah needs help, real help. This isn't normal behavior." Through the cafe window, I saw Jake approaching, his face grim with determination. The confrontation I'd been dreading was about to get a lot more complicated. Jake walked into the cafe like he was heading into battle, his eyes immediately scanning the room until they landed on our table. I watched his expression shift from determination to confusion as he took in the scene, Sarah glowing with happiness, a strange man I'd somehow summoned into existence, and me standing by the coffee counter looking like I'd seen a ghost. "Emma?" Jake approached slowly, his voice careful. "What's going on here?" Before I could answer, Sarah spotted him and waved enthusiastically. "Jake. Perfect timing. Come meet David." She practically dragged him over to their table, where Marcus stood up with that same nervous smile I'd noticed earlier. "You must be Jake," Marcus said, extending his hand. "I've heard a lot about you." Jake shook his hand automatically, but his eyes kept darting between Marcus and me. "Have we met before? You look really familiar." My heart stopped. If Jake recognized Marcus from the fake social media profiles I'd shown him this morning, this whole situation was about to explode in ways I hadn't prepared for. "I have one of those faces," Marcus replied smoothly. "Sarah was just telling me about your engagement." "Congratulations." The word engagement hit Jake like a physical blow. His gaze immediately dropped to Sarah's left hand, where his grandmother's ring caught the afternoon light streaming through the cafe windows. "Actually," Jake said, his voice tight with barely controlled frustration, "there's been a misunderstanding about that ring." "Jake." Sarah interrupted, her voice bright with excitement. "David and I have been having the most amazing conversation about relationships and communication. He has such interesting perspectives on polyamory and ethical non-monogamy." Marcus shot me a look that clearly said, "You need to handle this right now," while Jake's face went through several shades of red. "Sarah, we've talked about this," Jake said through gritted teeth. "We're not polyamorous. We're not in a throuple. I never proposed to you." "But the ring," Sarah started, "was meant for Emma." Jake's voice rose above the cafe's ambient chatter, causing several other customers to look in our direction. "The ring was always meant for Emma, Sarah. I've been trying to tell you this for days." The silence that followed was deafening. Sarah stared at Jake like he'd slapped her, while Marcus looked increasingly uncomfortable with the drama he'd walked into. Other cafe patrons were definitely watching us now, some with their phones out. "I don't understand," Sarah said finally, her voice small and confused. "But you've been so sweet to me. All those coffee dates, helping me with my homework, driving me places." "I was being polite." Jake exploded. "You're Emma's cousin. I was trying to be nice because Emma cares about you." Sarah's lower lip began to tremble, and I realized we were about 30 seconds away from a complete public meltdown. Marcus seemed to realize it too, because he suddenly stepped forward. "Sarah," he said gently, "maybe we should continue our conversation somewhere more private. I think there are some things we need to discuss about expectations." But Sarah wasn't listening to him anymore. She was staring at the ring on her finger, then at Jake, then at me with growing understanding and hurt. "You all think I'm crazy," she whispered. "Everyone thinks I'm just some pathetic girl making up relationships that don't exist." The accuracy of that statement hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. And that's when Sarah's phone buzzed with a notification that made everything infinitely worse. She glanced down automatically, and her face went from hurt to confused to absolutely furious in the span of 3 seconds. "Emma," she said, her voice deadly quiet, "why does David's Facebook profile say it was created 3 days ago?" The cafe went dead silent. Sarah's finger was hovering over her phone screen, and I could see from where I stood that she'd pulled up David's Facebook profile page, the one that clearly showed profile created 3 days ago in tiny gray text that I'd somehow overlooked in my rush to create the perfect fake boyfriend. My mouth opened and closed like a fish. "Sarah, I can explain. You made him up." Her voice was barely above a whisper, but it cut through the cafe noise like a blade. "David isn't real. You created a fake person to what? Make me feel stupid?" Marcus shifted uncomfortably beside her. "Actually, I am real. It's complicated." "Shut up." Sarah snapped at him, her eyes never leaving my face. "I don't know who you are or why you're here, but I know my cousin created fake social media accounts 3 days ago using your pictures." She stood up from the table, her hands shaking as she scrolled through David's profile. "Look at this." The job history only goes back to Monday. The check-ins at local restaurants are all from this week. Even the hiking photos are geotagged wrong. This says Mount Washington, but that's definitely Bear Mountain in the background. I'd underestimated Sarah completely. While I thought she was lost in romantic fantasies, she'd been analyzing David's online presence with forensic detail. Sarah, please sit down, Jake said, glancing around at the growing audience of cafe customers. Let's talk about this privately. No. Sarah's voice cracked. I'm done being managed and handled and treated like I'm too stupid to see what's happening. Emma, you spent hours creating an entire fake human being just to humiliate me. You researched my favorite flowers, my coffee order, everything I've ever posted about wanting in a relationship, and you used it to make me fall for someone who doesn't exist. The hurt in her voice was devastating, but what scared me more was the calculating look that was replacing the pain in her eyes. And you know what the really pathetic part is? Sarah continued, her voice getting stronger. It worked. For exactly 4 hours, I believed that someone actually saw me as special. That someone wanted to plan romantic dates just for me, bring me flowers on random Tuesdays, call me beautiful every day. She looked at Marcus, who was standing frozen by our table. I'm guessing Emma paid you to show up here? How much did my humiliation cost? $50? $100? Nobody paid me, Marcus said quickly. I came here because you felt sorry for me, Sarah finished. The crazy girl who steals jewelry and crashes other people's relationships. She pulled Jake's grandmother's ring off her finger and set it on the table with a sharp click. Fine. You all win. I get it now. But instead of the breakdown I'd expected, Sarah pulled out her phone and started typing furiously. What are you doing? I asked. Returning the favor. Sarah's fingers flew across her screen. You want to see what it feels like when someone posts your private business online for everyone to judge? Let's find out. My blood ran cold as I realized what she was doing. Sarah, don't. Too late. She hit send with a satisfied smile. I just posted a very detailed explanation to my Instagram story about how my dear cousin Emma catfished me with a fake boyfriend as revenge for, what exactly? Being too interested in your relationship? Caring too much? My phone immediately started buzzing with notifications as Sarah's 800+ followers began viewing her story. Then the tag started, she was tagging me, Jake, even my sorority's official account in follow-up posts. Sarah, delete those posts right now, I demanded. Why? You didn't delete David when I asked you to tell me the truth. She was still typing, posting screenshot after screenshot of David's fake profile, my IP address traces she'd somehow pulled up, even a side-by-side comparison of Marcus and the original photos I'd stolen. Within minutes, my phone was exploding with messages from friends, sorority sisters, and classmates who were all seeing Sarah's revenge posts in real time. Marcus looked between us with growing alarm. This is getting out of hand. Maybe we should all just leave, Sarah said flatly. All of you. I have more posting to do. And that's when I realized I created a monster far worse than the one I'd started with. The social media storm that followed was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. Within 20 minutes of Sarah's revenge posts, I had 47 missed calls, 183 unread text messages, and my Instagram story views had skyrocketed to over 2,000. The screenshots Sarah had posted weren't just damaging, they were forensically detailed, showing exactly how I created David's fake identity, complete with timestamps and metadata that made me look like some kind of digital stalker. Emma Torres catfished her own cousin, read one repost from a girl in my sociology class. This is actually psychotic behavior. But the worst part wasn't the public humiliation. It was watching the comments section turn into a referendum on which one of us was more unstable. Team Sarah, wrote one of her friends. Emma's revenge plot was cruel and calculated. Team Emma, countered someone from my sorority. Sarah literally stole an engagement ring and harassed this girl's boyfriend for months. Jake found me in the campus library at 9 p.m., hidden in the back corner behind the psychology textbooks, trying to do damage control on my laptop. I'd already called my sorority president, my academic advisor, and my mom, but the story was spreading faster than I could contain it. It's on YIKYAK, Jake said, sliding into the chair across from me. Someone posted the whole thing anonymously with photos. It has 847 upvotes. I groaned, putting my head in my hands. What's it saying? Psycho cousin wars at State University. The comments are not good. For either of you. Jake pulled up the app on his phone. Half the campus thinks you're a manipulative sociopath, and the other half thinks Sarah's a delusional stalker. There's literally betting pools about which one of you will get expelled first. Expelled? My head snapped up. Jake, I can't get expelled. My scholarship. Emma. His voice was gentle but serious. Dean Morrison called me 2 hours ago. Apparently Marcus Webb, the real David, filed a complaint with campus security about having his identity stolen. And Sarah's parents are driving down from Portland tomorrow to meet with the administration about cyberbullying and harassment. The room spun slightly. But Sarah's the one who posted everything. She's the one who made this public. After you spent 3 days impersonating someone else online and manipulating her emotions. Jake leaned back in his chair. Emma, I love you, and Sarah was completely out of line with the whole engagement thing, but what you did crossed some serious legal boundaries. My phone buzzed with a text from my mom, emergency family meeting tomorrow at 2 p.m. Aunt Carol is flying in from Denver. This ends now. It gets worse, Jake continued. Marcus isn't just some random guy who happened to match your stock photos. I did some digging after we left the cafe. He pulled up a LinkedIn profile on his phone. Marcus Webb, marketing coordinator at Morrison Digital, the same company Sarah mentioned in her fake engagement announcement. He started working there last Monday. The implications hit me like a truck. You think Sarah knew? That she found out David was fake and contacted the real Marcus? I think Sarah's a lot smarter than either of us gave her credit for, Jake said grimly. Look at the timeline. She figures out David's profile was created 3 days ago, but instead of confronting you privately, she shows up to the coffee date anyway. And somehow, the real Marcus, who just moved here, who just started a new job, just happens to show up at the exact same time. I stared at Marcus's LinkedIn profile, my stomach sinking as I noticed his connection list. Over 200 connections, including several people from our college. Including Sarah. She orchestrated this, I whispered. The whole coffee shop confrontation. She knew David was fake, found the real Marcus, and convinced him to show up so she could humiliate me in person. Jake nodded. Which means Sarah's been playing chess while you were playing checkers. And now she has proof that you committed identity theft, documentation of your catfishing scheme, and a witness who can testify that you used his photos without permission. My phone rang. Dean Morrison's office. Miss Torres? This is Patricia Chen from Student Affairs. We need to schedule a meeting with you tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. regarding some serious allegations. Please bring a parent or guardian if you're under 21. I hung up, staring at Jake in horror. Did she just say Patricia Chen? As in, Chen like Sarah's last name? Emma, Jake said slowly, what's Sarah's mom's name? I pulled up Sarah's Facebook family photos with trembling fingers, scrolling until I found a tagged photo from last Christmas. Patricia Chen, Director of Student Affairs at Portland State University. The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. Sarah hadn't just outmaneuvered me in our cousin war. She'd called in reinforcements from the one place that could actually destroy my college career. Her mother worked in university administration. And tomorrow morning, she was going to decide my academic fate. The meeting in Dean Morrison's office at 8 a.m. was everything I'd feared and worse. My parents sat on either side of me, their disappointment radiating like heat, while Sarah perched confidently next to her mother, who turned out to be not just any administrator, but the newly appointed director of student conduct review. Miss Torres, Dean Morrison began, the allegations against you are quite serious. Identity theft, cyberstalking, harassment. With all due respect, my dad interrupted, my daughter was responding to months of harassment from Sarah. Where's her accountability in this situation? Patricia Chen, Sarah's mother, smiled coldly. Mr. Torres, your daughter created an elaborate scheme to psychologically manipulate my daughter using stolen photographs and false identity. That's a federal crime in some jurisdictions. Your daughter stole a family heirloom and announced a fake engagement to my girlfriend's boyfriend, my mom shot back. She's been stalking Emma and Jake for months. I watched Sarah shrink slightly in her chair as the adults battled over us like we were children fighting over toys. But something in her expression bothered me, she looked almost as miserable as I felt. The thing is, I said suddenly, cutting through the heated discussion, I think we're both pretty messed up here. Everyone turned to stare at me. Sarah's eyes widened in surprise. Sarah, you completely invaded my relationship. You stole Jake's grandmother's ring, called his family, posted fake engagement announcements, and made me feel like a stranger in my own life. I looked directly at her. That was really screwed up. Sarah nodded slowly, tears starting to form in her eyes. But I spent 3 days creating a fake human being specifically designed to hurt you. I used your deepest insecurities about love and relationships as weapons against you. That was screwed up too. The room fell silent except for the sound of Sarah quietly crying. The truth is, I continued, we both did terrible things to each other because we felt powerless. Sarah, you felt invisible next to my relationship with Jake, so you tried to insert yourself into it. I felt violated by your behavior, so I tried to humiliate you publicly. I took a shaky breath. We turned each other into enemies when we should have just talked. Sarah wiped her eyes with a tissue. I never meant for it to go this far. I just felt so lonely after transferring schools, and you and Jake were so happy together, and I guess I wanted to feel included in something. And I never meant to hurt you this badly, I admitted. I just wanted you to understand how it felt to have someone else control your relationship status. Patricia Chen looked between us, her administrative mask slipping slightly. Sarah, is this true? About feeling lonely? Sarah nodded miserably. I don't have any real friends here yet. Emma and Jake were the only people who were nice to me, and I got obsessed with being part of what they had instead of building my own life. Dean Morrison cleared his throat. While this is all very touching, we still have serious policy violations to address. What if, my mom interrupted, they both agreed to counseling? Individual therapy for underlying issues, and maybe some mediated conflict resolution? And Sarah moves back to her original dorm assignment, Jake added from where he'd been sitting quietly in the corner. With actual boundaries this time. I looked at Sarah. I'll delete all of David's profiles and publicly apologize for the catfishing if you delete your revenge posts and return Jake's grandmother's ring. Deal, Sarah said immediately. And I'll apologize to Jake's grandmother for the confusion. And maybe look into joining some actual clubs instead of crashing other people's relationships. Patricia Chen sighed. Sarah Michelle Chen, you're grounded until Christmas. No social media, no dating, and you're going to therapy twice a week. And Miss Torres, Dean Morrison added, you'll be on academic probation for 1 semester, with mandatory counseling and 40 hours of community service in digital literacy education. As we left the administrative building, Sarah caught my arm. Emma? I really am sorry. About all of it. Me too, I said. And surprisingly, I meant it. 2 weeks later, I found out Sarah had joined the campus hiking club and the debate team. Her Instagram posts were now about mountain trails and tournament victories instead of fake relationships. And Jake? He finally proposed properly, with his grandmother's ring, at the botanical gardens he'd been researching for months. Just the two of us this time.